All right, guys, get the popcorn ready. Get the popcorn ready. In Mediaite, Dinesh D'Souza accuses Tucker Carlson and Newsmax of suppressing his stolen election movie. Do words not mean anything anymore? Suppressing? How is he suppressing? Is he trying to get your movie to not play in theaters? Or is he just refusing to give a megaphone to you to spread your vile nonsense? Suppressing, please. All right, let's go through this. So he's picking a fight. D'Souza's picking a fight with Tucker. Right-wing filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza accused Tucker Carlson and Newsmax on Monday of suppressing any mention of his new conspiracy film, 2,000 Mules. By the way, Crystal watched this movie, and I think she did a monologue on it or is doing a monologue on it, so everybody should check that out. It'll probably be released by the time this is up. We'll see. D'Souza wrote on Twitter, quote, "I'm sorry to say Tucker Carlson and his team specifically instructed Catherine Engelbrecht of True the Vote not to mention the movie, quote, or not to mention the movie. The controversial pundit and filmmaker also tagged Justin Wells, the executive producer of Tucker Carlson Tonight, one of Fox News' highest rated shows, in the tweet." I love how bratty that is. I love how petty that is. Like, I'm telling on mommy. I'm telling on your producer. Maybe your producer will force you to do it. Now, by the way, I should note, this person who came up with like the conspiracy here, was just on Tucker's show. But for whatever reason, Tucker or his producer said you can't mention the name of the movie. Now, I don't know why that is. They're letting her spew her nonsense about the election being stolen, but for whatever reason, she's not allowed to mention the movie. Is there some sort of personal beef between management at Fox News and Dinesh D'Souza so they don't want to promote his movie? Are they worried about a lawsuit? Because we know that One American News Network and Newsmax and even Fox News, some of them were sued and then others were threatened with a lawsuit over the whole Dominion thing. Dominion sued them because they were spewing these ridiculous conspiracy theories that like Maduro in Venezuela was controlling the voting machines and stealing it for Joe Biden. Just psycho stuff. But some of them were sued, some of them were threatened with a lawsuit, and then a lot of them just dropped the issue completely because they know they're like going to sue the pants off of them. And by the way, Dominion, I think, won some of them or was going to win some of them. I don't remember the specifics, but they had them dead to rights. Dominion had the upper hand. So I don't know why the name of the movie couldn't be brought up, but he did allow the person on to spew the nonsense, which is interesting, isn't that? That's an interesting little dichotomy. So you're fine with the nonsense being spewed, but you're not fine with the name being mentioned. So Rasmussen says, update, like Fox News, Newsmax is taking a dive on 2,000 Mules. Also, no current stories listed. Cable TV news is wrecking itself. Remember this. I love how stupid. Okay, so Rasmussen is like a right-wing polling outlet. I didn't know they were this right-wing. Because what they're saying is you're losing all credibility if you're not saying the election is stolen. You're not talking about the so-called documentary that shows the election was stolen, so now you're blowing all your credibility. Cable TV news is wrecking itself. I despise Fox News. They also happen to be the number one rated cable news network. So they ain't going anywhere. So what is it? I don't know what's leading them to make this decision. We know maybe it is because of the lawsuits involving Dominion. They're like, we can't talk about this. We're going to get sued. Maybe there's some semblance of like, look, we want to hold on to normiedom. Like, that's something that Tucker does better than other right-wing hosts. Like Dinesh D'Souza, everybody knows what Dinesh D'Souza is. They know who he is. He is a down-the-line, doctrinaire, partisan Republican right-wing guy. That's all he is. Tucker likes to flirt with normies and independents more. That's why he does the fake populism thing. In some ways, he's heterodox. Really, he ends up supporting standard Republican politicians, so his politics come full circle to conventional establishment Republican politics. But he postures himself in a way that he appeals a little more to normies. Maybe there's some of that going on here. He doesn't want to hitch his wagon to, these total losers. But the most ironic part is what? Dinesh D'Souza is a convicted criminal who did election fraud. And his movie is to expose the Democrats' election fraud. We need something stronger than irony to explain this. I mean, that's absurd. That is out of this world. No self-awareness whatsoever. None whatsoever. Anyway, let's see what else they have here. So Fox News, Newsmax, none of them are really covering this. True the Vote, the Texas-based nonprofit organization that provided the research D'Souza based his film on, claimed that 2,000 mules were paid by Democratic officials to collect and drop off votes in multiple states. Not buying it at all. Again, we had over 60 court cases about this, about was the election stolen? And virtually everyone was like, no, it wasn't. And it was Republican judges who laughed the cases out of court. And it was even Trump-appointed judges who did too. We had the audit of the vote in Arizona, and we found out that Biden won by more than we thought he won by on Election Day. It's over, son. It's done. It's gone. It's dead. Mike Lindell and Sidney Powell can go jerk off with their tears. You know, wait, is Sidney Powell a woman? Mike Lindell can jerk off with his tears. Why are you wasting our time here? Maybe that is why Fox News and Newsmax and One American News Network have moved on past it, because the lawsuits and because this shit is a dead end, bro. It's a dead end. You think this Dinesh D'Souza fake movie is gonna change the country or whatever? The Associated Press fact-checked the film, which former President Donald Trump screened at Mar-a-Lago, and has hailed as revealing the great election fraud, and concludes it is based on faulty assumptions, anonymous accounts, and improper analysis of cell phone location data, which is not precise enough to confirm that somebody deposited a ballot in a drop box, according to experts. Look, oftentimes the so-called fact-checkers are goofy and they're pedantic, but this is an instance of there's probably an endless number of ways you could fact-check this movie into oblivion. How it's false statements on top of false statements within false statements. While Engelbrecht did not mention the film by name on Tucker Carlson tonight, she was given the platform to make her debunk claims that she has immutable evidence that operatives visiting voter drop boxes multiple times based on the cell phone data. She told Carlson late last week that her organization invested in a tremendous amount, 10 trillion cell phone pings of geopolitical data that allowed us to monitor the device movements around drop boxes and to develop patterns of life and determine whether or not unique devices were going repeatedly to drop boxes. Over time, that became a pattern that included not just drop boxes, but also far-left organizations. And we know it's a pattern consistent with the Nexus, but blah, 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 blah. You get the gist of it. All bogus. No evidence to back it up. 60 court cases. Said no election fraud. Donald Trump did not win. Arizona audit. How many times do we have to go through this? Literally the last two people on earth talking about this, Mike Lindell and Dinesh D'Souza. Mike Lindell is a former crack addict who clearly is mentally unstable right now. And Dinesh D'Souza is a former convicted felon of election fraud. So just understand what this is. And he goes, by the way, Newsmax is also blocking coverage of 2,000 Mules. I was booked on Grant Stitchfield's Newsmax show, and then the network canceled on me. Criticize the move if you like. I think it's supposed to say movie if you like. But why isn't this a legitimate news story? Because you're a liar and it's bogus. How can so-called news networks pretend it doesn't exist? Look, again, I don't know why this fell apart. It could be that these networks have personal issues with Dinesh D'Souza. That's one thing. It could be they're afraid of the lawsuits. It could be that they've just moved on and they know that you're beating a dead horse here. It could be a mix of those things. But Dinesh D'Souza is a clown. And the thing I like most about this is that now Dinesh D'Souza is his role now in the right-wing media sphere is I'm the one pure right-winger role. I love this because we see this all the time on the left where people like to posture, I'm the one true lefty, and people who are not like me are not actually lefties. It's so stale and boring and stupid and self-aggrandizing and arrogant. Now we got a right-wing version of that. Usually they're better at circling the wagons and coming together behind the shared strategy of triggering the libs. Dinesh D'Souza is like, fuck that whole trigger the lib shit. My litmus test for anybody who wants to truly consider themselves a right-winger is you have to love my movie, you have to watch my movie, and you have to agree that the election was stolen. And if you're not doing those things, you're not a true right-winger, and I'm going to call you out. That's what we're seeing here. So, as that famous meme says, let them fight. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.